Here we are on the men's show. It's so good to be here, and we've got a very special guest, Cameron Munley. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
We are playing around with different mics, figuring out which one's which.
I'm so glad it's you and not me, I have to tell you.
Yeah, that'll be the one. Perfect.
I'm here.
Cameron, really glad to have you in. Thank you for tolerating us sort of muddling through here. I'm pretty excited to have you here because you've got such an interesting story and you're doing such interesting work, including running a men's group at the Gold Coast. We'll get to that, but maybe before that, let's hear a little bit about what's shaped you and a bit about your story, because I'm intrigued. You were a riot cop.
That's correct.
You were kind of like a Western New South Wales troubleshooter in terms of the very elite level of on-the-ground law enforcement. So tell us a bit about what's shaped you.
Let's talk about the man I was to the man I am.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so the man I was, joined the police in the early 80s. I always had this passion for service, and that was one of the choices. So in my early career, I did 2 years at Liverpool, and then I moved into the riot squad. And in the riot squad, that's the fellas with the bulletproof vests and the shotguns and the helmets. And basically, we deal with high risk or violent situations. So for 2 years, that's all I did.
Stressful.
Stressful, but actually quite exciting. We used to call it the adrenaline rush, or we'd call it the throb on the job, because you can imagine it does work, the adrenaline. The downside is it was very much a boys' club.
Yep.
Womanising, alcohol, bad behaviour. Had a young family, and I said, no, this is not the choice for me. I'm going to move to the country. Okay. So I moved out to Western New South Wales, about to Dubbo, Burke, Warriner, Ingania, all the outback outreach towns where antisocial behaviour was at its worst. So I fitted in very well into those communities with the skills that I brought to the table. So at one time, I suppose I was part of a small group, and the boss said, go out and fix the problems. I don't care what you do, just go and fix it.
Make it go away.
Make it go away. I don't want to know how you do it. I don't want to know if things go wrong. But I came from that to at the end, where I was a sergeant at Warriner, which was actually the beginning of Aboriginal Deafs in Custody of Floyd Boney. And what we did, we used strategies, what I did was use strategies to overcome the antisocial behaviour. Touch football on Tuesday nights. Certain tactics which worked so well that I was invited by the then Commissioner of Police to be an advisor to him on Aboriginal issues. So it was a fascinating story. As a middle-class policeman, I haven't travelled the world, but I'm very much well-lived, if you want to do that. So what happened was, I went into private enterprise, but I missed the adrenaline rush, or we called it the adrenaline rush. And so I took up kickboxing at 39 to get in the ring. I was going to get in the ring at 40, just to keep that adrenaline going. And I did it till about 45, when I did my shoulder in, and I couldn't do it anymore. I said, I'm going to join a pistol club. And someone said to me, why don't you join a spiritual church? I said, no, I want to join a pistol club.
Just double checking it, to doing the Muay Thai, was there, what am I trying to say? Was there an aspect of it which involved mental discipline, or was it all just sort of more thug-like?
Oh no, thug. It was mental discipline, and it was also that I was, without sounding wanky, I was hardcore. I liked to push the body, and I liked. We talk about what it means to be a man, and most of my focus at the time was to be a man meant you were hard, you were tough, you swore more, you chased more, you drank more. All those things that perhaps aren't the best choices at the time, but it's what I knew at the time. So what to me the Muay Thai reinforced in my own wacky little brain what it meant to be a man, if that makes sense.
I'm amazed at this next choice you came to, Pistol Club or Spiritualist Church?
Spiritual Church, yeah.
Because what you've described so far, okay, so you got these injuries, and that in a way made you less dangerous. But then, if you joined a pistol club, it would have made you more dangerous, because pistols are a lot more harmful than fists and feet. Something somewhere told you, okay, let me just take a left turn instead of a right turn. What was it at that point that made you go along to the Spiritualist Church instead of the Pistol Club?
Well, what I remember was I had left the police for a private enterprise, and I had started selling magnetic therapy products. You may remember people set up in the middle of shopping centres selling magnets. Well, that was me. I'd started as a hobby in Parklea Markets and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business within 3 years. Went broke and lost a lot, but happens to us all. But I started doing the mind, body and spirit festivals, and I remember I was at a stand next to this group of women called the Pranic Healers. And I remember, oh my God, they're just so peaceful. They're so beautiful, these women. And I'd sit there with them, and they of course they said, come to one of our nights. Well, I was doing the Melbourne Mind, Body and Spirit Festival, and I went there and I went, well, I wouldn't mind a taste of that. Of course, life for me was pretty frantic. 6 to 8 coffees a day. 6 o'clock, right on the dot. It couldn't be 5 to 6, couldn't be 5 past 6. I'd have my first scotch. Between 6 and 9, I'd have about 10 to 15 nips, and at 9 o'clock I'd stop drinking, and I'd drink water till 11. So that was kind of my daily routine. You know what I mean?
So there were rules, just not quite as healthy as maybe you'd want.
I was very regimented in routine.
Yep.
Yeah, it
And so
sounds
basically what I've done is change that. I always say routine turns to, I'm a bit flustered this morning, ritual turns to reverence. And so I've just changed my rituals. That's all I've done.
Nice.
That's intriguing. I like that as a theme to go to the song with. So ritual turns to reverence. The thing that struck me, just going back a bit, was the rigid self-control. It's such a pattern among addiction to go, this is my ritual and it has to be exactly the same, and I have to stop at 11 because then I'm not an alcoholic because I'm
absolutely.
stopping. All that sort of thing.
No,
Rigid
I drink from
self-control.
6 to 9. I don't drink for 3 hours, and then and my boasting bit, which is not much of a boast, is even though I'd probably drink 15 nips, I wasn't drunk, But then I would have the water from 9 till 11 to kind of flush it out.
Counteract,
of the system.
yeah, stop the dehydration.
But not before 6, not after 6. That'd be exactly on 6 o'clock.
Wow. It's 9:16 on the Play School clock. You're listening to The Men's Show with Steve and Andy, and our guest Cameron Munley, who's driven down from the Gold Coast this morning to be with us. Stick around and we'll be back, and we're going to be talking a bit about what does it mean to Cameron to be a man after all that. We were just, at the end, we were hearing about your life, which was what it means to be a man. It means about being hard. You took up Muay Thai kickboxing when you were 39. And then there was a big change. After injuries, you were wondering about joining a Pistol Club or joining a Spiritualist Church, and you chose the latter. Which brings us to the question, which is my favourite question to ask on the Men's Show. What does it mean to you to be a man today?
Totally different to what it meant to be 10 years ago. I had 30 years of of culture, of the way of thinking that I had adopted myself into, and what I thought was right and what I thought was good was really BS, to be honest. It was a slur on me, and it was a slur on the men that I work with. Nothing about it was authentic. It's quite pathetic when you look at it. Everything's wonderful in hindsight. But at the time, it was just the way I thought. And again, I'd had that contact with those pranic people, and I thought, oh my God, they feel so good. Or, ease and grace. Ease and grace was the new word that I liked, and I joined the Spiritual Church, and I thought, gee, I'm home.
So here we are now. Cameron's a good man. So if I took a photograph of Cameron as a good man as opposed to Cameron as a trying and not so good man, what are the differences, mate?
Cameron's always been a good man, but good people do bad things. And I learned that when dealing with people out in the world as well. But in hindsight, looking at myself, I made bad choices, and I continuously made bad choices. And as part of the addicting process, sometimes you would escalate those bad choices because they never gave you the kick that you did before.
And now?
Oh, now as a conscious male, I look at everything I do, and I aim to make light choices. Not
Light choices. I'm intrigued. I'd like you. I think you used the term originally Spiritualist Church, and there's quite a big difference between a normal church and a Spiritualist Church, isn't there?
Yeah, and look, I don't get carried away. Well, button. I don't get carried away with the idea of religion. I'm a great believer in faith without religion, believing in something greater than yourself. And that's one of the things that we encompass or we encourage is that I don't care what you believe in, as long as it's something greater and as long as it helps you to make a greater choice.
So I think I'm hearing that the main difference is that there's a bit of a noticing prior to making a choice.
Oh my God!
Between the old Cameron and the new Cameron. Is that right?
I was totally oblivious, and I was totally oblivious of the widows that I created over the years, over the bad choices, and it wasn't until I look back in hindsight and I think you weren't a very good person, or you've made very bad choices. I was always a good guy. Just bad choices, and now I make good choices. Not right or wrong, just good choices, right for me.
Can you give us an example of a good choice you would make now in this as a man, as a more conscious man?
You know, and it's probably one of the greatest ones I still tussle with is my reaction of feeling disrespected. I'm pretty feisty. I'm actually quite feisty, and any suggestion of someone disrespecting me, I will arc up, you know, and to the point now that I used to carry this. One of my sayings is, please don't confuse kindness with weakness, because, you know, I may seem kind, but don't screw with me, you know. But to the point now, I say that I no longer need to carry those couple of little arrows in the back of my quiver just in case. You know, just in case you're going to screw with me, I'll just pull them out. But I'm getting to that point now. I say, I don't need those because they're no longer a choice. It doesn't. You don't have to be like that to be a good man. All you have to do to be is authentic, and that's what I like the most about now is that I like myself. I respect myself, and there comes to the point where I go to make a choice, and sometimes I go, you know, the old gut feeling gets in. I go, is that authentic? Is that really my own interest? Because we did a topic last week on the men about betrayal. You know, how you betrayed people or people betrayed you. But at the end of the day, I betrayed myself. And we all betray ourselves with the poor decisions that we make. Betray our soul, our higher self, or whatever you want to call it.
Let's go to a song. We'll be
Okay.
back. We're going to be hearing about your experience of starting a men's group.
Okay.
This is the Men's Show. And Cameron, we've been hearing step by step your journey, including the fact that you put down the idea of joining a pistol club in order to join a Spiritualist Church.
Yeah.
And at some point there, you met the love of your life.
Absolutely.
And someone, perhaps it was a guide of yours or a teacher, suggested that you run a men's group. And I believe your wife, Lisa, had been running a women's group.
Correct. Look, we run wonderful events. It started as a barbecue in my backyard, where I used to shout 30 of my friends for dinner, and we'd call it a meditation night. And we'd do a meditation, we'd light a big fire, and then we'd have a few red wines. So that all changed. I met Lisa. She's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman. And I changed for love. The premise was I was changing for myself, but I adored this woman, and I would do everything. I'd walk over hot coals to be with her, and I started to make these changes. In the beginning, I felt like I was sacrificing things, but after about 12 months I can't even put a time frame on it, but suddenly it gelled one day, and I went, I'm doing this for me. I like the man that I am. I like the changes that I'm doing. I respect myself for once in my life. And I said, oh, don't worry about the love bit. I'm doing this for me because I love me. And it was the aha moment was huge. And powerful, without sounding too wanky, but it was powerful. I thought, oh my God. And then they said, why don't you start a men's group? And I went, oh, no, I can't do that. I've done no courses. What? Charlie Sheen could have been my best mate. Why? How can I inspire other men to be men? And it was said, look, you haven't travelled around the world, you haven't been to America, you haven't done this, but you've done a lot of living. And I have a saying is that you can't BS the BS, you know? So I come from a point of now...
BS the BSer, yeah.
That's right, BS the BSer, if we put that in phonetics. And to the point that I've had a lot of life, and I come from the point with the men's group that although I'm not an expert, that's the key point of the group. I've got as much baggage as every man in that group, and I love every man in that group.
The argument is that would actually make you more effective.
Correct. And I've learnt that in time. In the beginning, what we did, I grabbed a group of blokes and said, let's try a men's group. They say I should do a men's group. And again, there was a bit of pressure, and we sat around, there was 12 of us, and we sat around and we picked a subject, we talked, and when we finished, we all kind of looked at each other and went, fudge, that was good. We were in shock how good a night we'd had, how authentic.
Okay, so that's, I was going to say, what was good about it? So authentic, real?
Real, and the stuff that was shared, it blew me away. I said, because I said, let's do it every now and then. They said, no, I'll see you next fortnight. See you next fortnight. That was fantastic. And what I did, I just stumbled along. What do? I have no idea. We just keep picking the subjects. And what used to happen was that I'd trip over something that fortnight. And I said, that's the subject for next fortnight. Because I'm dealing with it, let's deal with it.
And there's some universal and very ancient methods of being in a circle or in a group that help to make it more than just a conversation.
Oh.
What would be some of those agreements that your group has that sort of makes it more than simply a couple of blokes, shooting the breeze?
There's the paraphrase, use I statements. We all just use, I'm the I statement Nazi in the group, and I'm the BS Nazi. If people start to get into a bit of a story, I cut them short. But the main thing is my father who's passed, I've got his walking stick, and whoever's holding the walking stick, they're the only one that talks. No one gives advice, because we're not there to advise each other, we're there to talk, and it's the power of the reflection. As we reflect on what that man says, I am reflecting on my life as I listen to what you say. And that's powerful, and that's what we've learnt the most. We've had a few experts come in who think they're experts, who come and bully their way and start to give advice. But this is what works for us.
They're quite universal, aren't they? I mean, those protocols you've just listed, I mean, I'm assuming confidentiality as well, but
Absolutely.
they're very simple. They're not always easy, but they're very simple, and they always work.
And we walk away. See, we've all got judgments sometimes. I sway from 10 to 20 men, and sometimes I have a bit of a cry, and I go, oh, there's only 9 of us here tonight. And we walk out, and the share is like something that'll come out of someone's mouth. I go, I can't believe you just said that. And we're all gobsmacked at the sheer honesty of what that man's got to say, and we carry that for 2 or 3 days afterwards. That, and it's not the loud ones like me; it's the quiet ones that come out.
Isn't it great to? It's great to meet a fella and watch him have a look at something, whatever's in between anger and numb. There's got to be something in between anger and numb.
And that's a funny story, because when I was going through that transition, at one point, I'd be sitting there and I'd start to cry, and I go, what the frigate, what? I'm crying, what am I crying about? I couldn't even work out what I was crying about, but what it was, I was just starting to feel emotion. Happy, sad, all those things I was starting to feel. The coffee was gone, the alcohol was gone. I was getting in touch with things, and it was so beautiful just to sit in that space, feel the emotion, and they'd say to me, dive into it. And that's what I do. I'd go, where am I taking that going? And I would cry. And my sons are listening to this now going, oh, Dad, you're such a dear guy. But it's powerful. And that's what we encourage now, or what I encourage with the men, is that we feel, we had a beautiful, last week we did betrayal. And some of the shares, I had tears in my eyes, because I heard men share stuff that they've never shared with anyone else ever in their life. And I could stop my men's group from that night on and say, it's all been worth it. It's all been worth it. To see the change in me and to see the changes in everyone in our group.
Cameron, it's been a great little journey hearing your story. Lots of varied aspects. And in the last talk break, for those that have just tuned in, we were hearing about how Cameron just started a men's group without really feeling like you knew what you were doing, but it just turned out really well.
We've just rolled into it.
I think the big thing for me was recognising that there are some really universal methods that make a men's group more than just a bunch of blokes having a yarn, and you mentioned using eye language, you mentioned the talking stick, and that just means being listened to and not given advice, confidentiality.
And the trust.
Right on.
No story.
No stories. No BS.
Yeah, right. And you facilitate that group, don't you?
Yeah, I call myself the BS Nazi.
Right, right.
You know?
I'm generally have been known as the eye language Nazi on the radio as well. Now, there's a range of other things you're offering, and I'm a little bit curious just because I don't meet someone who has such close access to the whole channeling thing. I don't meet someone like that every day, so I'm a bit curious to know, but let's not scare people away either. So tell us about your current offerings, including this aspect of other beings from other realms being able to share.
Again, as you can see, I'm outrageously real. You can't get more, touch wood, as what you get. So I'm outrageously irreverent, but at the other time, I am outrageously reverent. And I believe, ask me about the word divine 10 years ago, I would have choked on the word. But I truly believe there is something greater than us. Call it whatever you want, whatever choice is your choice. But that's lovely to know. And what we do, or what I do and what Lisa does, is that I believe that we are bridges from the divine to people looking for something more in their life. We're the first point of call in many occasions, because I use a commercial side to reach out into the community to inspire people to come along. We started the barbecue in my backyard. I'll go talk quick because we haven't got time. Barbecue in my backyard, I used to invite 30 friends. We'd have a meditation, then we'd sit around the fire and have a couple of red wines. We opened it to the Facebook, and we had 100 people the first night. Mm-hmm. At one point, we had 200 to 300 people a night, varying people from the community, where we showcased people from our community and what outstanding people that we do have. We don't get the 200 to 300 anymore, because most of those people are doing their own thing now. And the joy of that is that people in the community have more choice. They have more choices on different aspects of spirituality that they want to choose. So I have two phases of what we do. I have the Infinite Connection, is about what we do, and I have another page called the South East Queensland Spiritual Connection, which gives people choices of where they want to go. Lisa and I do beautiful work. Again, such is our faith, that I believe that we are benchmarks for what it stands to be a man, what it stands to be a woman, and what it stands to be as a couple, as a spiritual or a conscious couple in the community. And we try to lead by example. Not try, we love what we do in thought, word and deed. I'm not completely 100% foolproof, because that's the joys of what I do. I make mistakes constantly, and I get up and, oh, well, that was stupid, don't do that again, or don't do it 10 more times, do it 5 more times, then realise it, But we do beautiful things. My wife is an amazing healer. We pull people together, we run retreats. We had 60 people 2 weeks ago, 43 women and 17 men, for 48 hours of sitting in that loving space. And I can honestly say I love these people. Mm.
And did I get it right? Is it theinfiniteconnection.com.au?
Theinfiniteconnection.com.au.
So you also offer one-to-one counselling?
I do. Again, I did the counselling course more to, because I bullied into it at the time, but I got a lot of gems out of it. And suddenly now people have been ringing me to do counselling. It's not what I do. I have a day job. I have the day job is the cash cow that powers all this stuff. And people have been ringing me for counselling things, and I finish them and they go, well, that was really good, Cam. And I go, really? Was it? And it's adding to me as well as adding to them. I'm growing it with every counselling session I do with a man. I'm growing in myself as a person, and I'm growing with myself as my own self-awareness, but my own sense of self is coming to perhaps where it should be.
I work on myself to help others. I help others to work on myself.
Nice.
I might use that one.
Please do.
He's got
It's
some good
stolen. It's
sayings.
stolen.
I like that
You
one.
may as well have it. It's stolen.
Okay.
We, because we're in a different studio, I think it's important we give the next host for the propaganda show time to settle in. It's so disconcerting. So we have to wrap up here. Cameron, if anyone wants to find out more, they can call the station and get your contact details, or just go to theinfiniteconnection.com.
We love what we do. We believe in what we do. So come and be part of our beautiful family. That's all I can say. Come and be part. Everyone's welcome.